So much was happening in Avengers Infinity War that it allowed us to overlook some pretty big questions. One of the most interesting is how was the Soul Stone found in the first place? We know that Gamora ultimately knew the location of the Soul Stone, but we never learned how she came across it. Maybe it was just through hard work and general Gamora awesomeness, but could there be a more sinister explanation? Someone who was pulling the strings the entire time in order to secure freedom from an eternity of guarding an item he himself could not possess? That's right, this video is all about how Red Skull may have orchestrated his own freedom by revealing the location of the Soul Stone, and what this means for his MCU future. Let's get into it. Out of all the Infinity Stones, it definitely seems like the Soul Stone was the hardest to obtain. Like the Power Stone, all that took was a quick trip to the desolate Morag, and that was so easy even Peter Quill could do it while rocking out to his Walkman. That's nothing compared to having to literally sacrifice the soul of someone you love in order to get the Soul Stone. I mean, I guess you could argue the Time Stone is pretty difficult because then you have to fight a wizard, and that rarely goes well for anyone, but yeah, Soul Stone is definitely the hardest. Like, what happens if you arrive on Vormir alone? Imagine walking up that mountain by yourself and then finding out you have to go all the way back in order to bring back a friend or a loved one? My point is, it's incredibly difficult to find and obtain the Soul Stone, so my question is, how was it found at all? It's not something listed in the phone book or anything like that, and this is where Red Skull comes into play. His actions in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame may seem like some sort of listless spirit who's cursed to do nothing but provide helpful instructions to all those curious about getting the Soul Stone, but what if there was something more to it? I want to put forward the theory that Red Skull is responsible for purposefully sending out the map that led to the Soul Stone, so that it would make its way directly into Gamora's hands. And yes, I do mean Gamora's hands and not Thanos's. You see, I think the Red Skull is a lot smarter than he looks in his ghostly form, and he set in motion a plan that not only would get someone to actually show up for his weekly poker night, but would actually help free him from his prison so that he could get back to his old villainous ways across the entire universe. So what exactly is this plan? Well, to understand the gist of it, you have to know a bit about Red Skull. Oh, he's called that because his skull is red. Finally got it. Anyway, he was originally named Johannes Schmidt and was the head of Hydra. He wanted to become a superior man, so he injected himself with the experimental super soldier serum, and it caused hideous side effects. He kinda sticks out now, if I'm being honest. He wanted to use the Tesseract to create new super weapons that would help him conquer the world. But Captain America had something to say about that. After an epic final fight, Red Skull touched the Tesseract with his hands and seemingly disintegrated. Though as we learned throughout the MCU, the Tesseract was capable of space travel, since it had the Space Infinity Stone within it, which probably meant that Red Skull didn't perish when he touched the Tesseract, but rather was sent somewhere, and we just had to wait to find out where. Turns out he popped back up in a place where no one expected. It's revealed in Infinity War that he's now the guardian of the Soul Stone, and to hear him say it, he said that a lifetime ago he sought the stones and even held one in his hand, but the stone ended up casting him out and banished him on Vormir, forced to guide others to a treasure he cannot possess. Bummer. Although it's not explained why this exactly happened, we can speculate that it was Red Skull's attempts to misuse the Infinity Stone for dark purposes that led the Tesseract to banish him to Vormir. Or, you know, maybe when he grabbed it, he didn't quite know how to work it, so he just thought to himself, please get me as far away from Captain America and his scary shield as possible. So the stone obliged and took him to Vormir. The real reason? The writers had no idea where Red Skull was going, or the real rules for handling the Tesseract at this stage of the MCU. So they kept it ambiguous, and the Russo brothers saw a great opportunity to bring him back for Infinity War. But that's the boring reason. I prefer he was just too scared of Cap and was teleported to the farthest reaches of space just so he wouldn't get his face smashed with a vibranium shield. I also like to think that the Soul Stone had no guardian before Red Skull, but then the Soul Stone was getting a little upset that when people showed up to get it every 1,000 years or so, they would have no idea what to do to obtain it. So the Soul Stone asked the Space Stone for a favor, and the Space Stone sent a new guy to help out those who seek the Soul Stone. So now he's stuck on Vormir, and his punishment is to guard the stone but never get it himself. That's enough to drive anyone insane. And the fact that Red Skull was already insane means he's like double crazy now. You can't contain that much villainy. So this is where Red Skull set forth his plan. As was revealed by the Russo brothers, when the Soul Stone is taken, Red Skull is free from his prison to go do whatever he wants. And that sweet temptation of freedom is enough to get Red Skull motivated in getting someone to come and take the Infinity Stone. Because, let's face it, it's kind of hard to find. So when he heard through the cosmic grapevine that the powerful Mad Titan Thanos was searching for the stone, he saw it as an opportunity to escape. So he used his new ghost powers to send out a map to the stone's location directly to Gamora, so that Gamora would tell Thanos and they would get the stone together. Now, you would think a hole in this theory is that why would Red Skull send the map to Gamora and not directly to Thanos himself? Well, I think there's a smart answer to that. If Red Skull sent the map to Thanos, then there was a chance Thanos would come by himself to Vormir in order to get the stone. That makes sense since all of his other forces were busy scrounging the universe for other signs of the Infinity Stones, and Red Skull couldn't risk that. If Thanos arrived solo and then learned he had to sacrifice someone he loved in order to get the stone, he'd have to go back and track down Gamora. What if that backfired? What if Thanos had second thoughts about his whole Infinity Stone mission after having some time to think about what he would have to sacrifice in order to get it? What if he realized that the love he shares for Gamora is the only real thing in his life, and we see the purple villain's heart grow 3 sizes that day? Okay, that probably wouldn't happen. But what if Thanos had to go back out searching for Gamora and the highly skilled warrior was able to evade his forces and run away so she couldn't be found? Then Thanos would be stuck, since he only loves one thing in the whole universe. You know, he could try throwing Nebula off the cliff, but since Thanos doesn't love her, all he'd get is a commemorative snow globe and a t-shirt signed by Red Skull that says, "I went to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, and all I got was this lame t-shirt." Yeah, so Red Skull had to be sure that Gamora was with Thanos when they arrived on Vormir, so he sent a map to its location directly to her, betting on Gamora would lead him to it. Now, things sort of backfired on him when Gamora turned out to betray Thanos and kept this information hidden, and that probably extended Red Skull's wait for a few years, but he had nothing but time and was patient that it would all work out. And in a roundabout way, it did. It's kind of funny. Thanos used Gamora's love for Nebula to get the location of the Soul Stone out of her, and then Thanos used his love for Gamora to get the Soul Stone for himself. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I guess that's more sad than funny, but overall, Red Skull finally got what he wanted. He successfully brought Thanos to Vormir and was able to finally escape his prison sentence. But now what? So Red Skull is now freed. Woohoo! Wait, that's a bad thing. He's a bad guy, right? But what is he going to do now? You could think that he would naturally want to resume his quest to find an Infinity Stone, but maybe he's learned his lesson. If I was Red Skull, the last thing I would want is to go after an Infinity Stone after my last experience trapped me for over 70 years on a desolate planet. But hey, maybe there's actually a good reason for his quest. Right now, it's very unclear what Red Skull actually is. He's kind of like a spirit or specter, and although that probably comes with some new ghostly powers, maybe he wants his actual body back. That would mean he needs to quest after something that could restore him back to his human form. This could have meant him going after the Time Stone. I imagine with his new duties guarding the Soul Stone, he generally knew all about the other stones, so after he's freed, he knows that the Time Stone could potentially reverse his body to when it was in human form. Can you just imagine for a second a fight between a ghostly version of Red Skull and Doctor Strange, the keeper of the Time Stone? That would be epic. Not only would it give Doctor Strange a new type of enemy to fight rather than just more magic users, but it would make Red Skull a new prominent threat in the MCU going forward. Of course, I know the big problem with this. The Infinity Stones are destroyed, so there's really no point in having Red Skull quest after the Time Stone and fight Doctor Strange, even though that would be amazing. So maybe Red Skull likes staying a ghost and will continue to wreak havoc across the universe with his new creepy powers. Can you imagine Red Skull as a cosmic threat? Maybe Thor can come across him in his new Love and Thunder movie and make fun of the fact that he is a Red Skull and his name is Red Skull. The Captain Marvel movie showed that the franchise likes to bring back long-lost characters, so maybe the ghostly Red Skull could factor into Captain Marvel too. After all, both the Red Skull and Captain Marvel are both technically what they are now because of the Tesseract, and that makes for an interesting connection between the two of them that would be fun to explore on the big screen. No matter what though, all these options are good as long as it keeps Red Skull around. He's one of Marvel's best comic villains, and he hasn't had a chance to truly shine yet. And thanks to the recasting of the character to someone who seems like he really enjoys playing the part compared to Hugo Weaving, it means we have the chance to see a lot more of Red Skull in the future, which would be awesome, don't you think? Do you think the Red Skull could have been responsible for leaking the Soul Stone location? Do you want to see him come back? Let us know in the comments below and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more awesome MCU content like this. Thanks for watching CBR. See you next time.